To me, you've got to give the Los Angeles Rams credit for being aggressive. It's one thing when you have a kind of surprise season under a young first-year head coach. Your young quarterback looks like he could be that dude long-term. Todd Gurley has an MVP type of season. Things are going really, really well. And while, sure, the season didn't end the way that the Rams wanted it to, they still had a really good year. You win the number of games that they did. You win the division. You host a playoff game. You're on the right path. Obviously, something is going right. Now, that said, the truth is they weren't quite ready for prime time just yet, meaning they weren't quite at that level to be a true championship contender. And that home playoff game against Atlanta showed that. So, when you're a team like the Rams and you're in that type of position, you've experienced a little bit of a success for first time in several years. You have a young core, especially your young franchise quarterback, your young franchise level running back. You could sit there and potentially just believe that, we could draft and bring in a couple pieces, but we feel like we're good. We feel like we like the continuity of our team, the chemistry of our team. It also helps when you have arguably the best defensive player in all the National Football League and Aaron freaking Donald. But we could sit there and just kind of stay the course and believe this team will grow together, get better together. In another year or two, we might be ready. We might be at that point. It might not, but we very well might. And some organizations will do that. They won't get super aggressive in the trade market and free agency. They'll believe in the roster that they've accumulated, that they've assembled. They'll believe in the time together, the chemistry, the work together will eventually pay off. But the Rams clearly don't believe that. They have been very aggressive this offseason, and I applaud them for it. Whether or not it ultimately works out remains to be seen. But there's no question that Les Snead and that front office of the Rams isn't just content with what they did last year. They are trying to go for it. They are trying to be aggressive and be aggressive in a sensible way, and I applaud that. You could be foolish and just blow all types of money in free agency. You can make all types of ridiculous trades that sabotage your drafts for years, or you can make smart, calculated gambles, smart, calculated choices like they're doing. You trade away Alec Ogletree because, honestly, while he's a good player, he wasn't the best fit for the defensive system you have. You got some draft pick currency in return that you could use to get players or potentially move up in draft and get some impact players. Then you go and make the trade for Marcus Peters, especially when you look at the package that they ultimately gave up to get him. It wasn't that cost prohibitive. It really wasn't. And if it works out, it looks like a bargain. It doesn't work out, then you didn't give up that much. It's not crippling to the organization. You don't have that much invested. So you still maintain some leverage or control over Marcus Peters. But it's a gamble that was worth taking for them. And to me, it was kind of a statement that they didn't believe that Trumaine Johnson was going to be worth big-time money. And maybe, if anything, they valued LaMarcus Joyner a little bit more. But now, certainly we know that they do not value what they already had. Because not only did they trade for Marcus Peters, the Los Angeles Rams just pulled off another trade, acquiring Aqib Talib from the Denver Broncos, I think, for a 5th-round pick. Now, Talib, similar to Marcus Peters, is a talented player, and when his head's screwed on right, and he's committed, and he's focused, and he's dedicated, he can be really good. Aqib Talib, can be really, really good, and better than Marcus Peters, more versatile. He could do more things. He could be more of a shutdown type of guy, and he's a guy that could defend running backs, receivers outside, receivers in the slot, tight ends. He brings even more versatility than, let's say, just a Marcus Peters does, who's primarily just an outside cover corner. But the concern would be is that similar to Peters, Talib brings baggage, and he most certainly does. He hasn't had the cleanest off-the-field resume over the years. He frankly hasn't had the cleanest on-the-field resume over the years. He hasn't had the cleanest, when you talk about it, he hasn't had the cleanest way he's presented himself. He's gotten into different scuffles and different tussles, and he's done some different crap. And at times, he's had the ability to sabotage a locker room, similar to Marcus Peters in Kansas City, to a certain degree. And when you look at Talib, very talented, but some might say troubled. Sometimes he doesn't have the discipline that he needs. But a great and talented player, even if he's starting to get to kind of the downside of his career. So when you look at this deal from the Denver Broncos standpoint, they had to do it. They had to get rid of Talib. They needed to kind of do a little bit of a cleansing of the locker room and help Vance Joseph establish some control and get some of the bad blood and resentment out of there. So this was natural, and it makes sense. And they got something for him. They didn't just have to flat out release him. So well done by Denver. And then you look at it from the Rams standpoint. You don't give up very much. You get a high-end corner like Talib who has all this versatility. Now you're talking about a secondary where on the outside you've got Aqib Talib and you've got Marcus Peters. You got to feel really good about yourselves. You got to feel like you've gotten yourself to a position where you have some confidence in your pass defense. You have some confidence in your secondary. It might allow you to take more chances in Wade Phillips' 3-4 defense. You know, this is one of these deals where you say there's risk. Sure, there's risk. There's always a risk because that 5th-round pick you gave up could be a future Hall of Famer. Who the hell knows? You never know. But I've always been a fan of trading day 3 picks to get proven commodities, especially when you're in a position where you could potentially contend now or very, very soon. And the Rams are in that position where with a couple of key moves and things go well for them again, even though I doubt they'll be as healthy as they were in 2017 and 2018, and they'll have a first place instead of a last place schedule, you still have to like the fundamentals of what's in place with the Rams. You have to like what's going on in Los Angeles. You have to love Sean McVay as the head coach. Jared Goff and the progression you saw in year number 2. Again, Todd Gurley and how he played at an MVP level. What you got out of 3rd-round pick Cooper Kupp. That offensive line was significantly improved. And like I said, on the defensive side of the ball, you've got Aaron Donald. That's a pretty damn good place to start. And now you throw out 2 potentially quality cover corners in Talib and Peters, and now Peters could sit there and be more of the guy that defends the number 2 wide receiver, and Talib could focus on the primary matchups. It's looking good for the Rams. Now, there's always a danger when you have to start going into the marketplace like this and making these types of moves that if it doesn't work immediately, things could go south very quickly. And that sometimes is true. But if you were the Rams, especially when you look at the price and all they had to pay, which wasn't a lot, to get a Peters, to get a Talib, and some of what they got back in the Ogletree trade with the Giants, they absolutely had to do this. This was a great deal, and even if it doesn't work out, it's one of those ones that the Rams and Rams fans should have no second guesses about, no regrets about, no questions about. Because the good thing for Talib is he is coming into a situation similar to Marcus Peters, where they won a division last year without either one of these guys. They don't have to have them. And I highly doubt Aaron Donald's going to allow them to come in there and screw up the chemistry of the locker room, screw up that defensive meeting room. And they're coming into a situation where Talib has all this familiarity with Wade Phillips from their time in Denver, so you know he respects Wade. You know he respects the son of bum. And Marcus Peters can come into a situation where he can respect the defensive coordinators, because Wade Phillips, not the best head coach, hell of a defensive coordinator. Guys like Peters and Talib know they need to listen to Wade Phillips, because when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, Phillips knows what the hell he's doing. So it's a great situation for these 2 guys to be brought into. These were great moves by the Rams, and it's going to have people buzzing about them potentially being a Super Bowl threat this upcoming season, and I completely and totally understand why.